So this last week, I was hanging out with a lot of family, and it's hard because I think just naturally I bring politics and everything, and so with the big merger going
Um,
on with Paramount and WB, I'm right away
mhm,
like, I don't trust the Ellisons as far as I can throw them, but I need to have
right.
a better reason for why this is bad, and there are plenty of them. So I thought we got Thomas today. Thomas definitely knows Hollywood very well, and I thought you and me could kind of discuss a little bit why this merger is probably not great for the wider scope of Hollywood. What do you think?
God, yeah, let's definitely talk about it. I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time because we were chit-chatting just about like the whole Netflix about to buy them, and people were freaking out about that
Mhm.
and how, that could damage like movie theater experiences and stuff like that. But well, first of all, I want to ask you, like, what was your family's take? Like, was this a question you asked them about? Because they're not tied in as much to like Hollywood news and all that.
Yeah.
Did they have any thoughts about Paramount buying Warner Brothers?
The thing that came out of all this was like, "Oh, it's gonna be on one streaming service. That'll be nice. Can't wait." And it's like, that's fair. I
That's
mean, the price will go up on that streaming
hilarious.
service, by the way.
Like, that's
But
one less app we have to have. Like,
yeah, well, one less thing you have to pay for each month. Right? That's the ideal behind it.
yeah,
Um,
I just think that's such wishful thinking. Like, there's no way you're not gonna pay more to like add
right.
Warner Brothers to it. Like, you know, yeah. It's like knowing these companies and like their billions of dollars and all this stuff. There's no way they're gonna be like, oh, we're combining it for one low fee, or like you get to keep paying the same
Right.
amount. It's like, no way. They're gonna uppay.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to uppay. But anyways,
Yeah, but also, so there's that, and then there's also the idea of like, well, it doesn't hurt me. Like, what's a big companies are big companies. I just got to go to work every day. And
right,
so
right.
let's look at the different angles of places that'll be hurt. First off, the writers. One of the things I was thinking about is like if you're a writer in Hollywood, you have so few people to pitch to, and like all these original
Mhm,
ideas, you always hear about people who have like, oh, I've got a script I'm working on. It's like 3 years in the making.
mhm.
You only have a handful, maybe 6 or 7 studios to pitch to now, and that's about to shrink again. I think it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. I agree with that. I think that's going to be even harder for writers. Like we saw the writer, it's funny. Like people were complaining about like the writers being on strikes, but like look at what every year they have a new giant hurdle for their job. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Whether it's like AI or like we're going to use AI in the writers' room instead, so we don't need as many of you as we do, or now we're having like one less major studio. It must be. I'm selfishly glad I'm a shitty writer because like I'd be so bummed if I was like a screenwriter right now. It just seems so
yeah.
hard.
Not only do you have AI on your tail all the time, which is not doing as good a job as you, but is
Mhm.
obviously cheaper. So these studios
Yeah.
are wanting an excuse to use AI to replace you. And you're working with contracts every year that are sometimes not possible.
Mhm.
Also, like when you pitching a project, there are gatekeepers. And from an observer or from a watcher side of things, the gatekeepers are actually really good because they come with a lifetime of experience on what works in Hollywood, what doesn't, what has that spark. And if they
Mhm.
see that you have that and they give you the green light, there's something there. And so it's a really good feedback system. But if we're seeing something where suddenly the studios need to do things that are safer, or there's less
Yeah.
studios to pitch to, then if it's not a new Marvel movie, it's not going to get greenlit. And then the writers will get that bad feedback loop, right? Where suddenly they're like, gotcha, everything has to be a Marvel spinoff. Everything has to be originally a video
Right.
game. Then we have a problem.
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
exactly. I did love this point. I don't know remember who I was talking to about this with, but they brought up a really good point, which was like one thing that could happen on the positive side of this though is that we do get more studios that are like A24. A24 was
Yeah.
like kind of self-funded and it was like, man, there's all these good stories out there. Nobody's making movies like this. Like, we should just do it. Like
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of this is funny because I'm an investor and I haven't looked at it forever, but it's called like something H, like Theater H or something. I don't know. Sorry guys. This is
Right.
a bad investor. Like you put money into this and you don't even know what it's called. Yes, it's been a long time. But it's like a self-funded studio or like
Mhm.
fan-funded studio. So like
Yeah.
you'll eventually hopefully get a kickback or something when the studio gets huge. But Kevin Smith's done a movie on it. They've done things like The White Van. They've done things like Nandor or the Mongoose in Nandor that had Sean what's his name? He's from like the Hot Fuzz series and everything. But anyways, so it's had like
Yeah.
those. So there's been some decent movies in there. So like maybe those studios now get some of those writers who have really creative, interesting stories, similar to the guy who made Weapons, and Barbarian. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa,
Barbarian was
like
good.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, like we have to make this. This is so interesting. So, and we're probably really far out from that, but I hope this is giving some people's ideas, especially if they have a ton of money, they love movies, that, they'll kind of create their own studio. And there's like studios popping up over like everywhere. There's a new one coming in New Jersey in Red Band. There's obviously Atlanta has one. There's one I think coming up in Nevada now that people are using a lot. Obviously, Hollywood in California has all these incentives to try to get more people to film back here in California. So it could be a good thing for like smaller movies, I guess.
I think it will be eventually, but I think we're gonna go through a good like maybe 5-10 years of hurt.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, for people who are already hurting, it's a competitive industry.
totally.
Uh,
Yep.
Speaking
Agreed.
of, the Barbarian director, which is Zach Krager, had to Google it real fast.
Mhm.
He has a signature now, and now we're at the point now when Zach comes out with a new movie, I'm gonna go watch it. That
Oh yeah.
happens with many different directors, right? And like same thing with, I don't know, Christopher Nolan's the one I keep coming up with. But if we look at
Mhm.
Christopher Nolan, his earlier stuff, Memento, Prestige, and even Inception to a degree, those were chancy movies. Now they'll take the movie just because it's got his name attached to it. So he had to
Right.
come in with a very creative idea to build his brand, which now has an asset to studios. So if we're looking at the
Mhm.
director side of thing, they no longer have as many options to build their name and build their brand. And I think we're
Right.
becoming an era now where directors might be more valuable, or even some small studios like A24, than just saying an
Mhm.
actor's attached to it. You know?
100%. Yeah, I think that was it was so well said. I can't remember if it was before the Golden Globes or if it was before the actor awards that just happened. No, it had to be Golden Globes. Anyways, basically they got a bunch of top tier directors in the same room. It was James Cameron, it was Ryan Coogler, it was Chloe Zhao, and then it was like, they do like actors and actor roundtable, but this was directors on directors roundtable, and all of them talking about their process and their work and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, you see them and you're like, yeah, these are celebrity, like the directors are celebrities.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that makes it tough about this acquisition too is you're right, because less things might be made. No, who's to say if it is or isn't? But there's less areas like directors and writers can go to get their movies made. So there's less opportunities for even directors now to become the
Mhm.
next Ryan Coogler or to become the next Chloe Zhao or to become the next, Christopher Nolan and all that stuff. So I think that's also kind of a sad thing about any type of acquisition in terms of like a large movie studio is like, if all these jobs kind of get cut, which that's what happens normally with when a
That's what
large
happens.
company
Yeah.
absorbs another company, they're like, oh, well, these two people are doing the same job. We don't need both of them. Let's get rid of them. And then
Yeah.
all their knowledge and work and connections, all of that goes with them as well. And that could be also a bummer for like overall Hollywood, I think, is too.
Yeah, and also just like we're talking about those gatekeepers too. Like if suddenly you're going from 7 studios to 3, and somebody like Ryan Coogler, who again that's another one of those directors, but yeah, I'll just go watch the movie. It's a Ryan Coogler flick. Um,
Right.
if suddenly something doesn't work out with one studio, his pot that he can pull from is so much smaller than what it was
Right.
beforehand. It's just bad for all of us as viewers when suddenly
Mhm.
directors can't make a name for themselves, and then we get those new names that we could follow and trust.
Yeah, question for you on that though, like, because something crazy already happened this year, right? We got, I did not follow him on YouTube. I already know his face or whatever, but we got Iron Lung that came out based off the video game, right? That
Markiplier's
was
movie,
like,
yeah.
yeah, that was like self-funded. So it's like,
Mhm.
what if we just start seeing more of that now? Because you're right, like, hey,
Yep.
listen, these directors got big budgets that, or they at least have decent money and they have connections
Mhm.
to people who have a lot of money. Maybe they don't go to Warner Brothers. They're like, hey, Bob Cusack or whatever, high up producer who's 100 millionaire, can you produce my
Yeah.
movie? Maybe that happens
Right.
more, and they just start like indie running these things.
That's the I just saw an interview with Markiplier actually, and I'm not necessarily a big watcher of Markiplier, but I like him.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
during the interview, he said something real funny where he's like, since the success of Iron Lung, he's had a lot of studios come to him and asking him how he did it. And, and he's just like, I made
Wow.
the fan base first, then the movie that they wanted. It was just
Yeah.
different. You guys do the opposite. And yeah, there's nobody that's going
Right.
to replicate that necessarily. We do live in a Web 3.0 world now where you're not the big guy on Facebook. You're the big guy that happens to be on Facebook or Instagram or, so you
Mhm.
have to be there.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're gonna have to really start listening to the fans but also, like, my fear about that, though, is, like, there's sometimes we think we want something, but we
Mhm.
don't really, and, like, also what's popular to the niche group isn't always popular to everybody sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
what comes to mind is a show
Scott
or a
Pilgrim for
movie.
me, real quick. I'll just throw out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Scott Pilgrim, but, like, there's
Yep.
not a lot of, like, gen pop public who like that. Or, I mean, I was even
Mhm.
thinking about the World of Warcraft movie, like, you
Oh, yeah.
loved it,
Great
like, you
example.
knew the references, like, you knew who the characters were, you knew, like, all the lore behind it. I didn't. I still enjoyed the movie, but I can also see why, like, my parents aren't going out to watch it, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
I know
without
my
knowing the
parents didn't
lore.
watch it.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know, it is interesting, and this is another thing that, movie theater or I guess studios are even doing on themselves. By adopting new technologies like AI, they're also making it harder on themselves because there's more that they're gonna have to adapt to.
True. That's true. Yeah, you need the source material to be able to pull from for AI.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of kind of taking chances in those movies we don't need before, I really like that call. One of the things that studios are going to do is they're going to only make safe bets because suddenly when they're merging and they're trying to be
Mhm.
more efficient and stuff like that, suddenly you can't gamble anymore. What is gambling in Hollywood? It's mid-tier movies, which we talked about before. Derek has
Mhm.
a really good panel about this.
Mhm.
I think back to some of my favorite mid-tier movies, and surprisingly, the thing, my favorite movie of all time, Shawshank Redemption. That's a mid-tier
Mm.
movie based
Yeah.
off a book. Give it a shot, and now it's so iconic, it's quoted all the time, I watch it anytime I get a chance. And
Right.
if we don't give a movie like that a shot, it'll never be established as a legend or a classic, and I think so many of the big studios, if this merger happens or more mergers happen, are gonna only want things that are IP based or spin-off based or something like that, and
Yeah.
not give just a good story a chance, and that's just a good story.
Yeah, so true. Because, yeah, it has felt like that, especially since COVID, that it
Yep.
has to be attached to some kind of IP or something like, oh, well, this has a built-in fan base already, for sure. We've already, but I think if the last 6 years or almost 6 years has shown Hollywood anything, well, who knows? But, like, it should show them that, like, just because it's attached to IP doesn't mean it's going to do well. We've seen it with Marvel
Yep.
now. It's like you can't just spit out any type of show looking at you, Thor: Love and Thunder for me. It's like, I love Thor to death. I love Thor: Ragnarok. I got the poster right up there,
Mhm.
but, like, it differed. It, like, went too far away from, like, what people loved about Thor, and yeah, I think that and hopefully something like Sinners too, like, hopefully a movie like Sinners
Oh, good
reminds
example.
Hollywood that there can be original stories that are so impactful, and they, like, you know but yeah, I think that's a better argument than something like Oppenheimer, for example, where I was
Mhm.
gonna reference Oppenheimer, but again, it's attached to Christopher Nolan. It also came out the
Exactly.
same week as Barbie, so I don't think that's, like, a good one-to-one comparison, but I think original stories that can still slap and crush it at the box office, there's no better example than Sinners right now. Hopefully,
Mhm.
that still gives studios some faith to do more original stuff.
Yeah, and mid-tier movies were always designed to fill out the schedule. And so when you don't need to fill out the schedule as much because you're gonna have a movie that's gonna do real good here, then it's gonna go on streaming and do good over there because it has to, things start to homogenize. And I'm glad you brought up the MCU because in the article I wrote for this, I used them as the microcosm, saying that
Mhm.
like we've already seen how this works with the MCU. About 6 years ago, they started homogenizing everything because they saw what worked really well in Avengers, and everything started feeling
Mhm.
like an extension of the Avengers and we stopped getting
Right.
original movies. But
Yep.
just last year, they're starting to correct themselves. They took a chance on a different indie-esque kind of director, and they made a movie called Thunderbolts. That is awesome.
Yeah,
They could,
yeah.
Hollywood's gonna learn to do that again, I think.
Totally, totally. Yeah, I wanna, like yeah, just kinda clarify for anybody who's listening who may not know, like, yes, we need more of that mid-budget. I thought that, The Dungeons and Dragons movie, I don't know what the budget
Yep.
was on that, but that felt like a perfect mid-budget movie. I'm sure it's like considered a high budget movie, if you look at it, but it felt to
Yeah.
me like when we were younger and we would get those
And it's
kind of
IP
action
based too.
adventures.
So yeah.
Yeah, it is, but like it's not so public IP based that like you're so beholden to rules. So it
Right.
allowed the creators to be creative. And yeah, I agree with you on the MCU where it didn't matter the director, in these 5 years where everything seemed to have kind of dipped, it still felt like whatever genre, and I'm putting this in quotes, that they were doing, it still kind of felt like the same thing. You're right in
Yeah.
that only this year or I guess last year, although I'm gonna exclude Captain America because that felt very formulaic. That felt
It
very
felt
like
like the
MCU.
last of that, like the sputtering of the unification of MCU. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But then you look at Thunderbolts, for example, or I guess New Avengers, and that felt very much like this is a Jake Schreier movie. You know what I mean? Where it's
Yeah.
like this is a Jake Schreier movie set in the MCU, not an
Well said.
MCU movie that Jake Schreier just happens to be directing. And so, like, I
Yeah.
think, yes, trusting the artists that you are hiring to make the movies. I know that's the biggest gamble for studios, I think. It's not even
Mhm.
just the concept. I mean, maybe the concept, but also it's like who's making the movie, who's attached to it. Like at one point, it sounds crazy to say, but like James Gunn was a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one point, Ryan Coogler was a chance. And they like trusted these guys to work within the confines of the MCU and like go make your movie. Go make Guardians of the
Exactly.
Galaxy. Go make Black Panther. Like
Fruitvale Station. You got to take a chance on a real small whatever movie Fruitvale Station to get the
yeah.
guy that makes Black Panther, makes the centers, and I will buy a ticket anytime.
Anytime. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I hope that's the lesson that they're walking away from. I think that is kind of the fear when it comes to Paramount buying Warner Brothers is that they haven't done the best thing with their IP.
Right.
As a Star Trek fan, you're wearing the Trek Freaks hat. It's like,
Mhm.
it's like, I like Strange New Worlds. It's the first Star Trek I actively watched. But the reason I even gave it a chance was because I knew you and talking to you. It's like, and then I knew the J.J. Abrams movies and like,
Yeah.
but they haven't come out with any new movies on arguably one of the biggest franchise or like biggest IPs that they have in Paramount. Why have they not done something with Star Trek, in
I tell
movies?
you, Thomas, you are killing it on the segues today, my friend. You are nailing it right now.
Oh, is
Because-
that a segue for something else?
well, next up, let's talk about the ownership. We're going to pull politics out of it because, yes, I do have political beef with the Ellisons and who they support. But if we're
Okay.
talking about them as new owners, they are money first, creative second. And WB has faced that a lot. There's only been like one owner in the last 70 years that's been creative first. And when you
Mm.
have money first, creative second, you start to get things like bringing back Rush Hour, bringing back Independence Day, all these movies that have already been done to death. They don't need to be
Right.
remade. Nobody's getting a chance. And so
Mhm.
it's like making fake money. Yes, you'll get money now, but you're not building any value in the company. But if you were to
Right.
take a chance and make some new IP, suddenly you have new staples going forward that you can go back to when money's tight. And you could like Disney does well in good times and bad times because when it's good times, they'll make a different Pixar movie. If it's bad
Mhm.
times, they'll make Toy Story 5. There's always something for them to go back to. And Paramount right now, they're just going back. They're not looking forward very much.
Such a good point. Yeah, I mean, even what else crushed it for them? Like the Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah.
Those are done. You know what I mean? Like those
Mhm.
that franchise is
They
done.
say they're
unless you
done, but with the
recast
new
and-
ownership, I have a feeling they're gonna milk it out for one more.
yeah, I'm sure they could do one more, but yeah. So it's like there needs to be something to your point that is now that they're willing to take a chance on to really expand, and you can't just look to Warner Brothers to save you from that. Like Paramount still is. It's still a legacy studio. It still has
Yeah.
incredible storytellers attached to it. It's like dig in the well and go find some of those people. Like go find some of the people or go hire them from somewhere else. Like go hire the next Ryan Coogler to come in and do a Paramount movie. Or what else do you got? What's something that you've been sitting on that's like Sinners that, we can turn into a whole new show or something? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right. They've used so many like past things to try to bring them forward, but you're right. They're not building equity for the future. They're not giving something like
Right.
our kids can like dive into and be like, oh, this is my thing. It's just,
Yeah. They don't have
yeah, there
ownership
needs to be
over
something
anything
new.
that's out now. It's all stuff that we're letting them borrow. And it's not that you can't pull the values and what was good about that, the themes and things like that forward. A really good example with a Paramount project or a Paramount IP is Survivor. We talked about it over on Outlast podcast. Obviously, I'm a dear fan of it. And right now is
Mhm.
the 50th season. And for the
So
50th, they brought
crazy.
back a lot of classics, a lot of classic players, even some from the very
Yeah.
first season 25 years ago.
Whoa.
And yeah, and with that has come a very big shift in gameplay. We're seeing it in the show where suddenly like, oh my god, yeah, they haven't done something like that, like using sunglass or using people's glasses to start fire. They haven't done that in god 10 years. And
Mhm.
um the in season 40, it was the pandemic. And so they shifted things to make things more pandemic friendly, and in doing so they made it far more budget friendly. After that
Mhm.
happened, CBS, Paramount said, "Gotcha, that's how you're gonna do the rest from here on out." And the show really
Ah,
suffered from that. Still a good
yeah.
show, but it became much more about the social dynamics and less about the grander scale of surviving on an island. With
Mhm.
50 and it being the anniversary, they gave them a bigger budget, and now Survivor, this season of Survivor, is the biggest numbers that CBS has had on a Wednesday night in 4 years. And it's
Wow.
showing them if you invest back into the properties, if you pull the things that people liked, like the surviving on Survivor,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not like you have to necessarily make Rush Hour 4, but what about putting two people who don't get along or don't know each other and seeing what happens? That's a classic, trope. Try it again. And so I think
Yeah,
there's something to
yeah.
always learn from the past. You don't have to ditch it. It's just when you actually invest in the creative properties and don't just squeeze it for every penny you can, you get something good out
Right.
of it. And the numbers go up.
Totally, totally. I love that. I think that's awesome. Survivor's definitely worthy of that. They've hung in there. They've had loyal fans like you for 50 seasons. It's like, yes, that's something they absolutely need to do more of. So I'm super pumped. I'm trying to look at like what other IP does Paramount have that they're just sitting on that's like, okay,
Yeah, not Mission Impossible. Gosh dang it. Top Gun is a big one for
so
them.
Top Gun, yeah, like why okay, so the last Transformers that we got was like the Beast Wars one. That I don't know if that movie I think maybe that movie only did okay, but like the
Yeah,
way they ended that movie leading in and showing like GI Joes are on the horizon, like just go make that movie. Just go make it good. And
yeah,
I promise you I will show up. A ton of people will show up. Like that is epic. Like, okay, the fact that we haven't got a new Star Trek show, the fact that TMNT has only been the cartoon that Seth Rogen did. And then
God,
the
yeah.
other core franchise is Paw Patrol. Like, you have millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and these are the IP that you're not even doing anything with half your IP. Like, what is
Yeah,
going on?
and we're not like that's such a good point. We're not saying don't pull from the past, but do it
Right.
correctly. And when you said Transformers right away, I was like Bumblebee was so good because yeah, they got
Bumblebee's
trashed for a while
great.
there when they were trying to squeeze it for as much dollars as possible. I remember when they were like,
Mhm.
"Well, we have to make sure that there's a Chinese boxer that's on the elevator one time on one of the Transformers because we're going to sell this one in China." And it's like, yeah, but narratively that makes no damn sense, you know.
Right, right, right.
But
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Bumblebee, they did the Thunderbolts thing where they're like, let's scale it back down, kind of tell a new story
Mhm.
within the it was great. It's the best thing they did
It
in
was
10 years.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also, and then I think that also goes back to what we were saying earlier too. They let the director and that writer like tell a
Yep.
completely unique story. It wasn't like beholden to sponsorship. It wasn't beholden to like, this needs to be like the summer box office smash. It just needed
Yeah.
like just
Wasn't
make a
like an
good
algorithm
movie.
thing, where it's like, "Oh, the algorithm says
Yeah,
this is gonna work." It's like, "No, it doesn't."
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it had a lot of parts in there, but like, yeah, man, they could just do it. I mean, they're probably sitting on so many cool other IP ideas, shows, movies that they're just like, what are they doing? So I guess
Yeah.
that's one
Writers and
fear
directors
about
too, like the creative people that work for them, use them, let
yeah,
them bring their ideas forward. Let's see what happens.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think they have I'm gonna be a little bit more optimistic about it because the fears are very obvious. I think the
Mhm.
fears are very like, it's easy to point out like what happens to DC Studios? Like, do they change their
Yeah, I
plan or
know.
do they let them just run things? I think all we can do is hope that they just let James Gunn and Peter Safran just cook. You guys just keep doing what you're doing. Like Superman maybe wasn't $1 billion movie, but it still made a lot of money. And it was one of those movies everybody talked about all year, still continues to be talked
Yeah.
about. Just let them keep doing their thing. And the other thing that somebody noted was that I don't know, I think it's the son, right? Like the son's David Ellison, right? Um,
Y
I think
yeah,
I
I
think the
think
dad's
so.
Larry. It could be opposite.
Yeah.
Sorry for not knowing. I don't know my billionaires. But anyways, like
You don't have the playing cards?
I don't have the collector edition like rookie cards.
Holographic Elon Musk?
That would be so, yeah. But I got aunts and uncles that probably have that. You guys can have it. But the one thing I can say about the son is that he wanted, or the way he even got to own Skydance that now owns Paramount was because he wanted to be an actor. He loves movies, so to speak. I mean, he loves action movies, and you know, whether every movie that's been created under him has been a smash hit or not, you know, he still is a person who went to film school. He loves film. Hopefully that kind of can come out and he can just allow filmmakers to make film and to make good shows. And like, you know, that I got to believe that there's some part of him who still loves that side of the business. So let these people cook, you know? So let them do their thing.
Yeah, I like that hopeful note. The hopeful note I'll add is we were talking about earlier how there's like a nose for AI. And I think that nose also exists for when things are starting to get stale in movies. We've seen it with Marvel. And so I think if they try to pull this off and try to just bring out the same garbage over and over again, the audience will react. And then like you're saying with A24, we'll find those indie films and we'll amplify them. And hey, we'll put them on Geek Freaks as well, guys. You know?
Yeah.
So I don't mind at all. Yeah.
Man, imagine like in a couple of years, you know, well, it's probably going to be like you were saying earlier, 5 to 10 years, but 5 to 10 years from now, there's a bunch of studios like A24 who do their own version of action movies, who bring back comedies, like legit comedies. Like this studio makes
somebody, man.
Right?
Yeah.
Like this studio just makes comedy movies. Like that would be amazing. And it's not like Hollywood comedies or anything, even though those are still classic, still amazing, but we're not getting Hollywood comedies anymore. So like literally like those kind of studios who get to focus on a genre or whatever, man, it could be a good thing in the overall picture. It's just I think it's gonna be rough for a couple of years.
It's gonna be rough, but you know what? I think one thing that we need to take away from this as people on Geek Freaks who have an audience, may not be, you know, WB size, but we have an audience of our own. I think we need to make sure that we're amplifying the smaller stuff too. So as much as I would like to share the news all the time whenever something big happens with the Marvel Studios, I need to also share when there's some really cool casting for a smaller movie like Highlander and stuff like that. So we need to continue doing that on our end as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Let us know what you guys think about this. If you're a little bit worried about this, and if this helps you when you're talking to maybe some of your aunts and uncles that are a little more pushbacky or not caring about the current state of Hollywood. Hopefully this helps you out a little.